In a world where the Phillies are on the road starting tonight, a lot of our region is still talking about two other teams. Josh Hennig hanging out with you here on 97.3 ESPN. Yes, the Phillies start their 6-game road trip tonight, but there's still a lot of talk out there about the state of the Eagles. What might be the biggest question for the Eagles this offseason? Plus, Flyers fall out of the top 5 in the NHL draft. We'll get into the NHL draft and the Flyers' prognosis moving forward coming up in about 20 minutes from now. We'll be joined by Jason Myrtetus. Of course, he is the host of the Flyers Daily Podcast, as well as the co-host on the Flyers Radio Network. Him and Brian Smith, you hear them throughout the year here on 97.3 ESPN. You guys join the conversation as well as 609-403-0973. Your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. We will start with the Philadelphia Phillies as they are on the road tonight. And one of the conversation points for this team with this road trip starting is going to be about the pitching. Not the starting pitching, but the bullpen pitching. Remember, we discussed this in recent days here on 97.3 ESPN about how is this team going to be able to sustain a run against some tough teams this month before they get to the easier part of their schedule. Remember, the Phillies have one of the best starting staffs statistically in all of baseball. They are top 5 in numerous categories. ERA, strikeouts per 9 innings, batting average against. They're one of the best starting staffs in baseball, even with Ranger Suarez imploding after 2 innings on Sunday. And frankly, I don't think what you saw from Ranger on Sunday is a bad omen of things to come. I just want to point that out. We didn't get a chance to really hit on this too aggressively yesterday, but I think Ranger Suarez, his struggles on Sunday had more to do with rust than anything else. I think that he does not have a lot of experience throwing out of the stretch right now, and he was more comfortable throwing out of the windup. So I don't think the next time you see Suarez, which will be Saturday in Cleveland, that he is going to be what you saw. I think he'll be a better version of what you saw on Sunday. But with Wheeler going tonight, Sanchez tomorrow, and Luzardo on Thursday, and Nola on Friday, that means the next 4 games, in theory, if everything goes as planned, you should get 5 to 6 innings every one of those starts out of those pitchers. And so now, are we going to get a bullpen that is a little less taxed? Are we going to get a bullpen that is going to be able to stay within the roles that have been designated for them? I don't know the answer to that, because we know the Phillies love to play matchups. And that is why when Mike Gale wrote the article on 973ESPN.com, it brings up Ryan Hensley. For those who don't know, Ryan Hensley is the closer for the St. Louis Cardinals, a team that you will be facing again May 12th to the 14th. So you will see the Cardinals one final time before the end of this month. And you will have a intimate opportunity to see Hensley in person. Now, Ryan Hensley, what would you have to give up for him? Well, former MLB general manager Jim Bowden outlined in Mike Gill's article at 973ESPN.com that he proposes a Mick Abel for Ryan Hensley deal. Well, why is this a relevant deal? Well, 2 reasons. One, because the Cardinals are kind of teetering on that contender versus not contender status. While despite the consternation we all have with this team, the Phillies are one of the best teams in the National League. Meanwhile, the Cardinals are a team that's pretty much all offense and no pitching right now. Their pitching staff is just not very good. It's a huge reason why they are 17-19 on the year. If the Cardinals had better starting pitching, they would be above 500, which is why Mick Abel is appealing in theory to them. As Bob Wankel explained on the Sports Bash with Mike Gill here on 97.3 ESPN Crossing Broads, Bob Wankel, Mick Abel's stock is at an all-time high right now.
This is probably the best that his outlook, his stock has sat with the Phillies in the last 2 to 3 years. So if that's the case and you get towards the deadline and you need to go outside the organization to make moves, and in order to get a return, who are you going to trade? You don't want to trade Adam Miller? Okay. You don't want to trade Andrew Painter? Okay. You probably don't want to trade Crawford? Fine. You're going to have to trade somebody of consequence in order to get back a meaningful piece. So maybe it's Mick Abel.
And maybe it is Mick Abel. And listen, I'm not saying Mick Abel is cooked or done or whatever. What I'm saying is that as I detailed in 97.3 ESPN.com in my own article, Mick Abel is having the best year since the Phillies drafted him in the first round of the 2020 Major League Baseball draft. He's now 23 years old. So he has elevated his maturity, right? Maybe he's a little more in control. He has among the top 3 in all of AAA in strikeouts per 9 innings. He is eating up innings. He's pitching deeper in the games. Now, remember, the Phillies sent down Garrett Stubbs to the minor leagues to work with guys like Mick Abel. Well, the Stubbs experiment is working out very well in the minor leagues because the Phillies pitching staff at AAA has overall pitched well. And Mick Abel has seen a major elevation, a major upgrade in terms of his performance in the minor leagues. But the problem with Mick Abel is there is no clear path to the majors for him right now with Philadelphia, because you still have that Andrew Painter guy ahead of him. And as Bob Wankel and many others have outlined this, Todd Zalecki of MLB.com has been on, Matt Gell from The Athletic, Frank Close from 97.3 ESPN.com, and many others. The common understanding is that Andrew Painter is the one pitcher who they are slotting in to be their future. So Mick Abel right now does not have a clear role with the organization moving forward. Now, you want to have starting pitching in your minor league system just in case something bad happens. But you also want minor league pitching in your system to make sure that when the right deal comes along, you can make that deal. And as Dan and EHT chimes in on the text board at 609-403-0973, Dan EHT says, Helsley would thrive with a change of scenery and going to a contender and not a pretender like the Cardinals. And maybe you're right. Maybe he would thrive with Philadelphia. But is giving up a guy like Mick Abel worth getting a guy like Ryan Helsley? Helsley is 30 years old. Helsley is actually statistically having his worst year since 2021. He has a 3.46 ERA. It's the first time he has an ERA over 3 since 2021. His whip, not very good right now, 1.53. It is currently the worst of his career. His strikeout to inning ratio has decreased for the fourth straight year. So the question is it worth giving up a guy like Mick Abel to get a guy like Ryan Helsley, who at least statistically looks like he is on a downward trajectory as a pitcher? Or do you say, I don't care, you just got to get somebody in here because this organization is putting way too much pressure on Kerkering and Romano right now, and you need a third right-handed pitcher in that bullpen who is a reliable final 3 innings of the game arm. And whether he's the closer or not, he may be valuable just in the fact that if your big names coming out of the bullpen, you're adding one more guy to that list, right? It's Helsley added to Romano, Kerkering, Alvarado, Strom. Now you have a fifth guy that you can look at and depend on moving forward. But again, is Mick Abel a guy that Philadelphia would be willing to trade in that situation for Ryan Helsley? I would contend that in a league where there are tons of people, that need starting pitching, Phillies are very fortunate. They have a surplus of starting pitching. And when you have a surplus of something, you have the right to drive a hard bargain. And if I'm Philadelphia, I want to maximize what I can get for Ryan Helsley. Look, when the Phillies got Cliff Lee years ago, they gave up 3 pretty big name prospects, and only one of them actually turned into anything, Carlos Carrasco. When the Phillies acquired Roy Halladay all those years ago, they gave up, at the time, a big-time prospect in Kyle Drabek. Now, while most of the prospects that I'm talking about did not turn into anything, the reality is that you have to give up, but you got something big for those players. Is Ryan Helsley a big enough return, a big enough name, a big enough style of player that is worth giving up the number 8 prospect in the Phillies system and a pitcher that in 2023 and 2024 was rated a top 100 prospect in all of baseball? There was a time that Mick Abel, year in and year out, was a top 5 prospect in the Phillies organization. He regressed the last 2 years. He fell down that list. He has now found his control, okay? He has been much better this year. He is at the apex of his value. Is the best I can get for a 23-year-old former first-round prospect, Ryan Helsley. And I think that's where my mind goes, because one of the points that Jim Bowden points to in his article with The Athletic was a conversation he had with Dave Dombrowski. And I'm not going to play you the whole audio of what the almighty and all-knowing demigod that is Dave Dombrowski said, but I thought there were a couple of points that Dombrowski made in that interview from Sirius XM MLB Radio back in April with Jim Bowden that I thought were interesting. First, listen to how he talks about Jordan Romano and Joe Ross. Now remember, this audio is from April 20th, so this was about 2 weeks ago, but this gives you a little bit of insight in the mentality of the man who is calling the shots for the Philadelphia Phillies franchise.
We're really have had a struggle so far. Has been Romano has not pitched like we thought he would. Now he is healthy, which is good. I think he will bounce back. He hasn't been out there for a while, but we need guys like Romano. Joe Ross pitched well yesterday. He has been a little bit inconsistent for us, so we need those type of guys to step up. And if they do, and we think they have the capabilities, all of a sudden you say, well, that bullpen's really good.
And that gives you a key insight into the problem I have had with the Phillies for weeks. Josh Hennig here in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios on 97.3 ESPN FM, and we are also on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City. Less than 10 minutes now, we will turn our attention over to the Flyers and them missing out on the top picks in the NHL Draft, which will be next month. But for right now, speaking of the draft, Dave Dombrowski is treating Jordan Romano and Joe Ross like they are A-plus prospects who he's just, I believe they can turn it around. I believe they have the tools. I believe they have it within them to be really good. And the problem is when you believe in something so intently, that belief, that blind faith can basically shield you from reality. You know, Jordan Romano is a guy who was a 10th round pick in the 2014 MLB draft. Is he a two-time All-Star? Yes. In 2022 and 2023. He is coming off an injury. So you can argue, now that he's healthy, can he do something for you? Now, Joe Ross was a first-round pick, but in the 2011 MLB draft. So you have two guys who have some level of pedigree, right? One's a former All-Star, one's a former first-round pick. And you have the president of baseball operations on his high horse telling all of us, well, if these guys play well, we got a pretty good bullpen. Well, Dave Dombrowski, that's a huge if. Because so far, we have gotten mixed results from Romano and Ross. And frankly, you can throw Kerkering into that now because they've used him so often. He's giving you inconsistent results, which led to this final response about Dombrowski's perspective on the Phillies bullpen entering the month of May.
We're in a position where that is something we have to continue to assess. And I do think that guys like Romano and Ross will come around and pitch like they have in the past and be really good for us as the year progresses.
He believes they're going to turn it around. But what if they don't? What if Romano and Ross are fool's gold? What if these two guys never turn out to be the pitchers you hoped for them to be? Kerkering had a lot of promise. Will he elevate his game in 2025? The answer is incomplete, or we don't know right now. So while Dave Dombrowski is still hoping that Romano and Ross and company work out, I'm living in the real world, which is I have to say that if you have a chance to get Ryan Helsley, you have to consider it because as of right now, yes, he's having a down year, but you need to consider all of your options. My question for you is Mick Abel one of those options? We'll get to more of your guys' text a little bit later this hour, 609-403-0973. Your DMs into 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle. But coming up on the other side, the Flyers, well, the ping pong balls, the odds were not in their favor last night. They walk away with the 6th overall pick in the 2025 NHL Draft. We'll talk about the disappointment coming up next with Jason Myrtetus from the Flyers Radio Network and host of the Flyers Daily Podcast when he joins me next on 97.3 ESPN.
For over 135 years, First Bank of Sea Isle City has proudly served Cape May County with a commitment to maintaining a hometown feel. We provide secure, convenient deposit and loan products every day. We're more than just a bank. We're a trusted community partner, offering personalized banking solutions that make life easier for local families of all ages. First Bank of Sea Isle City. Look for our lighthouse in your neighborhood and discover what makes us different.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Quiet down, here she comes. Shh. Surprise! Your accountant just emailed to say your quarterly taxes are way higher than you were expecting.
At Progressive, we know small business owners don't usually like surprises because they cost you money. But a good surprise that could save you money? Getting discounts with a commercial auto quote from Progressive.
Also, your favorite employee is leaving. They're going to pursue their dream of being a veterinarian.
Surprise yourself. See if you can save in as little as 7 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
Greetings, Boomtown. Ever since this neighborhood switched to Xfinity Internet,
the Wi-Fi is booming!
Xfinity combines the power of internet and mobile with one all-in plan.
So we've all got lightning-fast, secure Wi-Fi speeds at home and on the go with Wi-Fi Power Boost from Xfinity Mobile.
You get the most reliable Wi-Fi with our best in-class equipment and unlimited data included. Plus, add an unlimited mobile line.
All for only $40 a month for 1 year. To celebrate this combo, we're mashing our shows together.
It's everything you need all in one plan. Plus, learn how to get a free 5G phone with a premium unlimited line. Now, sit back and relax with the smooth, relaxing sound
of face-melting acid metal!
Brilliant.
Visit Xfinity.com to learn more. Ends June 23rd with paperless billing and autopay stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Xfinity Internet gateway required. Taxes, fees extra. After 1 year rate increases to $110 a month. After 2 years, regular rates apply. Actual Wi-Fi speeds vary. Most reliable Wi-Fi based on Open Signal Awards USA. Fixed Broadband Experience Report, August 2024.
Step into softness with the carpet upgrade from the Home Depot. Our stylish choices and simple prices make selecting new carpet simple. With our total project price match guarantee and installation starting just 49 cents per square foot, nobody beats our prices. Enjoy our everyday low prices on carpet with the softness and durability to take on anything life throws its way. Refresh with new carpet today from the Home Depot. Base price for standard installations only. Exclusions apply. For licenses, see homedepot.com/license numbers.
This is the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network.
Progressive Insurance presents the Sports Flash on 97.3 ESPN. Major League Baseball tonight. The Phillies are in Tampa to take on the Rays at Steinbrenner Field. It'll be Zach Wheeler getting the start for the Phillies, who have won 6 of their last 8 after taking 2 of 3 over the weekend from Arizona. Wheeler has 57 strikeouts, a 2-1 record, and a 3.48 ERA. Tampa Bay going with Drew Rasmussen, who's 1-2, an ERA of 2.64. NBA playoffs, 2 games on the schedule. The Cleveland Cavaliers hosting the Indiana Pacers in Game 2. Pacers took the first game on Sunday, while Minnesota will host Golden State Game 1 of that series in the Western Conference. The NHL held its draft lottery on Monday night. The New York Islanders won the top pick. Philadelphia will be picking 6 in the opening round. That'll be held on June 27th in Los Angeles. Progressive Insurance, bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. I'm Tony Desiri, and that's your Sports Flash on 97.3 ESPN.
You matter, and so does your well-being. If you're facing tough moments, struggling with anxiety, depression, thoughts of suicide, or substance use, help is here anytime you need it. Call, text, or chat 988 for free confidential support. New Jersey's 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is here 24/7 for you or someone you love, with trained counselors who listen and care without judgment. You matter. Remember New Jersey's 988. A message from the New Jersey Department of Human Services.
From the Town Square, New Jersey Info and Weather Network, I'm Chief Meteorologist Dan Zarrow. By this time tomorrow, drier weather, clearer skies, and lower humidity should prevail. Now, we'll keep an isolated shower chance in the forecast for tonight. Under mostly cloudy skies, low temperature dips to 58. There's still a chance of a shower when you wake up tomorrow morning. Then we'll see partial clearing. Nice day tomorrow, high 74. Thursday starts good, high 72. Scattered showers return in the afternoon. More rain Friday. Get weather 24/7 wherever you are. Download our free mobile app today.
You have the choice, whether it's going out to dinner or ordering takeout at a local restaurant. Those choices help to put money back into your community. And Town Square Media South Jersey puts a spotlight on local restaurants.
Tuckahoe Inn Restaurant, come join the good times. Tennessee Avenue Beer Hall, great beer, killer eats, unmatched vibes. Island Grill Restaurant, serving fresh, delicious seafood favorites in Ocean City for 30 years.
Thank you for supporting these great local restaurants.
This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
Before we get back to the text board at 609-403-0973 and your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle, we got to talk about what happened last night. Many of us were hoping, praying, wishing that some sort of good vibe would help the Flyers with the draft lottery last night, but it was all for naught as the Flyers walk away with the 6th overall pick in the 2025 NHL Draft. What does that mean for the team moving forward? Well, let's ask the host of Flyers Daily Podcast, also Flyers Radio Network host. You hear him here on 97.3 ESPN throughout the Flyers season. Jason Myrtetus joins me here on 97.3 ESPN. Jason, welcome in. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. I got rid of the post NHL Draft Lottery blues as the Flyers not only didn't move up, but they actually moved down 2 spots. But that's what a lottery is, and it's there to protect the integrity of the game so teams don't outwardly tank, and especially those years where there's a Connor McDavid or a Bedard available, to keep the integrity of the game, because having the worst record is no guarantee that you get the top spot. And that also provides teams like the Flyers, who finished with the 4th worst record, the ability to move back. So that's ended up what's happened, and you got to deal with it. And good organizations and good teams find a way to find talent no matter where they draft, and then develop it and have it be impact players to help them become a better team.
I think that's kind of where we have to go next, right? Is the fact that, yes, they had the 6th overall pick, Jason, but they also have, 3 first-round picks right now. So for you, how do you think having a 6th overall pick maybe changes their plans for what they do with the picks in this year's draft?
I mean, I think, they're in that second tier of players, if you will. You look at the top 2, maybe 3 guys for this draft, whether Matthew Schaefer's kind of been the consensus number 1 overall pick, and then Miza's been a guy that's been pretty much at 2. We'll see. Craig Button's recent mock draft that came out today had Porter Martone moving up to number 2 and going to San Jose. So we'll see. This is one of those drafts where it's not as cut and dry as when you had a draft like McDavid and Eichel, or even going back to the year that Matthews and Laine were taken. It was an obvious top 2 and then the second tier. So it really comes down to individual teams' evaluations of these players and what they value. So there could be a little bit of mixing up after the first 3. But all said and done, you got to get it right. When you draft this high and you go through and endure a season like the Flyers had, where they finished with the 4th worst record in the league, you got to come away with something. And yeah, they have those other picks at the back end of the first round. One of them is probably going to be around 24 or 25. That's the Colorado pick from the Sean Walker deal last year. And we'll see where that Edmonton pick, kind of falls based on where they finish in the playoffs this year. But you got a lot of draft equity, but you got to find a player that fits, your situation. I think you got to draft the best available player at number 6. And there should be one there that fits the need as a center. So it's a draft where they'll be able to get a good player, even if they're not drafting at 4. They'll be able to still get a good player at number 6. Will it be a superstar? That remains to be seen. There's not guys in this draft that you look at and go, that guy's going to be a bona fide superstar. So you got to see how they develop and how they adjust to the man's game in the NHL.
So if there's not the potential of a bona fide superstar, right, at that 6th pick or maybe in the first round, although we've seen superstars go later in the first round in the past, is this maybe an opportunity for Briere and Keith Jones to turn around and say, let's take a couple of these picks and maybe trade them for a player?
Yeah, I mean, you can absolutely use the equity you have via draft picks, and we know how general managers in all sports view first-round picks. They think they're gold bullion. To me, they're a big question mark. When you get outside of a top 10, and they're huge question marks. You're banking on the future, development and growth and all those things and assimilation of the NHL game, and you're projecting it from a kid who's probably not shaving. He's 18. This isn't like the NFL where, they're 21, 22 years old.
Right.
A lot different. So it's a big projection to make. And I've always been in favor of using draft equity for known commodity, or relatively known commodity with another team. So we'll see if they end up using all 3 of these first round picks and all 3 of those second round picks. They allow them a little bit of flexibility that if a guy drops, around 18, you can move from 24 to 18 with that Colorado pick using a second round pick or whatever you have to do if you see a player that you really have targeted. So Danny's got a lot of, things he can do with the picks he has this year and next, and they got a ton. And then also young players that were on the Flyers roster, that are on that younger side, whether that's a Cam York or a Bobby Brink packaged with a pick for a known, we'll see. Because you look at some of those players and they're not making big money yet. York's an RFA, he's got to get a contract, but you get a lot of different ways you can skin the cat here and improve this team, not just for right now, but for the long term as well.
Talking with Jason Myrtetus. Of course, you can catch him on the Flyers Daily Podcast as well as on the Flyers Radio Network throughout the Flyers season. Him and Brian Smith here on the Flyers affiliate here on 97.3 ESPN. You mentioned about the opportunities, right, when it comes to different things. I have been wondering, Jason, is this an opportunity for us to finally maybe go out and get some defensemen? Because to me, throughout the year, and I don't know how it was for you, but I felt like every Flyers game I watched, I got frustrated with the rotations, with the fact that, I saw Travis Sanheim play with better talent on Team Canada. He looked really good. Now he comes back and he's sometimes the best defenseman on the ice for the Flyers. So could those one or two of those first-round picks maybe be the gateway for the Flyers to get some top-tier defensemen?
Yeah. Well, you got to look at it a couple ways. Who's available in the free agent market is always the first question. You got to look at, okay, who are the guys that are available? Who do you want to target? So when you speak about, defensemen in particular, the forward group is not an overwhelming forward group. The D group, there's a couple of names on there that kind of intrigue me, whether that's Aaron Ekblad, but he's up there now. Are you going to pay him north of, he made $7.5 million on his last contract? He's going to be 30 years old. If you're building for the future, the unrestricted free agent game, when you're in the early parts of the build up of an arc towards becoming a playoff team and then hopefully a cup contender, you tend not to right in the beginning sign 29-year-old players because they're not going to be here for it. And plus, they're cost a lot of money. So I don't see them going into that realm. I think that you'll see a guy like Emil Andre be an everyday player next year, and how that affects the defensive rotation. We'll see how the York situation plays out. He's a restricted free agent. They have his rights, and he's their player. But does he come back and have a bounce back season paired with Travis Sanheim? The continued development of a 6th overall pick in Jamie Drysdale with a guy like Andre. Is it the end of the line for a guy like Yegor Zamula? How do these all play out? Who else is ready to come up? Helgi Grans came up and played really well for the Flyers and has played really well for the Phantoms. You don't want to bring in a 30-year-old guy to block an opportunity for a young player who you're not paying a lot of money to, and you're continuing to kind of gauge their growth as you go also. So they have, the defense to me wasn't the biggest problem with the team. It's the center position lacks depth. But they do need better defensive play overall. And then you couple that with goaltending, obviously. But no, I don't see them going into that free agent market and going bonkers on the defense. I don't see them going in free agency and going bonkers on anybody, because I think you don't kind of handicap yourself for the next offseason when the free agent market looks far better and you're in a better financial spot. If Connor McDavid goes to market, you don't want to be short money that you can offer him because you signed a 30-year-old defenseman this year. It's penny wise and pound foolish. So I don't anticipate that'll be the route when it comes to the D-core.
So it's a balancing act then, right? It's the idea that, you don't want to hyper accelerate the roster's age, but you also, I was talking with Scott Laughlin from SiriusXM NHL Radio before, and he's talked about here on the show about how, you don't want to waste Mishkov, right? You don't want to be like, hey, we're waiting, and then Mishkov get impatient with you. So it's this balancing act between wanting to take steps along with this budding superstar, right?
Oh, absolutely. They're incremental steps, and you like I've always said this, you can't microwave a rebuild. You microwave pizza, it tastes like microwave pizza. It's awful. It's like eating a sponge.
Right.
Same thing in a rebuild. You can't cut the corners and just press fast forward on it and expect it to work. You got to I think right now you got to be really prudent, because now you're in the spot where you're going to be acquiring players and signing players, and you can't make a mistake in today's game. In a 32-team league, in a salary cap, hard salary cap league, you can't make a mistake. So you got to be really prudent right now to make sure you make the right decisions and do it on an arc. You got to get Mishkov some players around him offensively to play with. It'll take more of a focus off of just of him, which will make a difference and free him up at times and make the team better. But you got to be careful when it's time to hit the home run and go for a huge name. That's not yet, but that doesn't mean that they have to remain as they were this past season. They subtracted 19 guys of 35 that were on the team when Danny Briere took over for Chuck Fletcher at the end of that season a couple of years ago. They have not replaced a single one of those guys with an equal to or greater player. Now is the time to start adding better players back into the mix and begin that arc of ascension as opposed to subtraction, kind of hitting your rock bottom and then going back up.
Couple more for Jason Myrtetus. Of course, check out the Flyers Daily Podcast. He is the host, and of course, he's on the Flyers Radio Network throughout the Flyers season here on 97.3 ESPN. You mentioned the goaltending. It's the forever long question in Philadelphia, right? It's about goaltending. What is the state of this goaltending right now? Because I think a lot of people, they're still trying to figure out, like, what is going on? Because, you got Fedotov, you got Kolosov. What's going on there? Is this team's future and goal currently in the organization, or is it maybe coming from somewhere else?
It's a good question. It's one I can't answer fully right now because, they got a couple of prospects at the goaltending position that are 19 years old, and Carson Bjarnason, who's with Lehigh Valley now, and also Yegor Zavagin, who's playing over in the NHL playoffs and played in the KHL this year and had a really good year, comparative numbers to Shesterkin at his age in the KHL, Sorokin, Vasilevsky. But projecting goaltending out is even harder than a skater. You just don't know how that development along the way is going to go. It's like voodoo, the development of goaltending. And you look at it and, you look at a guy like Shesterkin and you go, well, he came over here and was really good right away. He did spend a little bit of time in the American League to adjust to the North American game. And then, but he was 25 when he got here. So we're talking about it. So you got a big window there before he gets to that age and that level of play. What do you do in the meantime? Well, I don't think you can come back and roll out what you did this year, and certainly not carry three goalies with Fedotov, Kolosov, and Ersson. That just never works. It's a nightmare scenario. So I think Ersson's a part of the tandem. However, which side that's weighted on, that he plays more than half the games or less, I think probably closer to less. But you got to get somebody in here, a veteran guy, I think, that can stabilize the position, because goaltending will undo a team every time. If you make a mistake and it ends up in the back of your net, you can't play the game properly in front. You're just too afraid to make mistakes, and you can't push the other way. So whether they go into free agency, not a great free agent market for goaltending. You may have to go the trade route and find a veteran guy that you can have for 3 years, 2-3 years to help Ersson along, and also give you stable goaltending in more than half of your games this year. And I think if Ersson goes to that role, he'll give you the stable goaltending in his portion as well. So that's a win-win.
Yeah, because in today's NHL, basically almost every team has two goalies at this point. It's not a league, or three.
Yeah.
I mean, I was explaining this to a buddy of mine the other day. It's like, the days of, Martin Brodeur and Patrick Waugh, they're gone. Like, there's almost none of those guys left anymore. And so today's world, I mean, if you don't have two, you basically have none. And I just don't know what they're going to do, because it's like, if you don't get the stability at the goaltender position, Jason, you know how it works. It can be a demoralizer. I mean, the whole Brizgalov incident years ago basically tanked the entire organization for a year.
Yeah, for many years, because they traded Bobrovsky to get him. When they got him, when Bobrovsky saw that they signed him to that huge contract, he didn't see his path to a starting future here in Philadelphia, so he wanted out. And they traded him to Columbus. He won some Vezinas there, and he's in Florida. He's won a cup. He's won a Vezina there. I mean, he's going to the Hall of Fame most likely. So yeah, that's the one that haunts you. The other thing about not having goaltending is it makes it really difficult to judge where you are as a team in a rebuild. How real you are or not real you are. If you get competent goaltending, you can really measure where your team is a lot better. When you don't have it, as I said, the players in front of a goalie, when a goalie struggles, they know, and they play the game different. And when they got a guy back there that can erase their mistakes, they play the game with a lot more creativity, push the pace, and that's the way you got to play in today's game. So they've got to solidify that position to some degree. I'm not asking for Connor Hellebuck, a guy that's going to play 60 games. But you're right. You look around the league nowadays, there's maybe 5 legit franchise goaltenders in the entire league. You see guys like Aiden Hill winning the cup in Vegas. You see guys every year that have incredible seasons, go to far in the playoffs, and then kind of drop off too. So you got to be concerned with how much money you commit to that position also. So they got to solidify it this summer. And I think Danny Briere knows that, and he's going to go out and find a way to make that. I mean, I'm just asking for league average or slightly above. That's not too much. It's been league worst, and that's just been a huge detriment.
Absolutely. He's Jason Myrtetus. Check out the Flyers daily podcast where you can get some insights into who's playing in the Calder Cup playoff run right now. As yes, the minor league team, the Phantoms, are actually in a playoff run, but there's a lot of guys on that team who could be a part of the Flyers' future next year. At Jason Mert on the Twitter X platform, and he joined me right here on 97.3 ESPN. Jason, appreciate you jumping on today.
Anytime, man. Appreciate it.
Josh Hennig back here in the Ocean Casino Resort Studios here on 97.3 ESPN. We'll check back on the text board coming up on the other side. Dan and EHT, your text and more. 609-403-0973 and your DMs into the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Of course, it's free thanks to First Bank of Sea Isle City.
The ShopRite LPGA Classic presented by Acer returns to the Jersey Shore June 6th through the 8th at Seaview, a Dolce Hotel in Galloway, New Jersey. Come see world #1 Nelly Corda, defending champion Linnea Strom, and the LPGA Tour stars compete in the shore tradition. Daily, weekly grounds, and upgraded hospitality tickets are all available. Children 17 and under get in free, and ShopRite Price Plus card holders can download 2 free tickets. To purchase or download your free tickets, visit ShopRiteLPGAClassic.com. We can't wait to see you out there.
Step into softness with the carpet upgrade from the Home Depot. Our stylish choices and simple prices make selecting new carpet simple. With our total project price match guarantee and installation starting just 49 cents per square foot, nobody beats our prices. Enjoy our everyday low prices on carpet with the softness and durability to take on anything life throws its way. Refresh with new carpet today from the Home Depot. Base price for standard installations only. Exclusions apply. For licenses, see homedepot.com/license numbers.
If you need to hire, it seems like the whole process can be exhausting. You search resumes, wait for the right candidates to apply, set up initial interviews. It's a lot of time and work. Well, what if you could meet with qualified candidates for your job the very next day? Now you can with Zip Intro from ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Zip Intro is super easy to use. You simply pick a time, and it does all the work of finding and scheduling qualified candidates for you. Then you can choose who you want to talk to and meet with great people on back-to-back video calls as soon as the next day. Best of all, you save time and energy.
Try Zip Intro for free right now at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Zip Intro. Post jobs today, talk to qualified candidates tomorrow. Once again, go to ZipRecruiter.com/radio to try it for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/radio.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Annie's first oil change wasn't as hard as she thought because she went to AutoZone, where a friendly AutoZoner helped her find the right oil and save on an oil filter. He explained the job and showed her free how-tos on AutoZone.com. When she was done, AutoZone recycled her old oil for free. No hassles, just help. Everything you need, nothing you don't.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Hey, Green Gobbler here. So you've got a clogged drain in your bathroom. Water in the sink's overstaying its welcome. You're spitting today's toothpaste on top of yesterday's toothpaste. You hope that it go away. Yeah, clogs don't just go away. I make them go away. I'm Green Gobbler, the only clog dissolver you need. I'm bleach-free, safe for your pipes, and I work. Guaranteed or your money back. Because I never met a clog that was gonna unclog itself. Green Gobbler. Let the gobbler get it.
Another checkup? Why are so many people getting new puppies?
Dr. Kim's veterinary office is littered with cuteness.
We are booked solid for weeks, but who can say no to a puppy, right? Oh, good boy.
She needs to find extra vet techs to get those pups some extra love.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job on Indeed, candidates can find it easier, so you can hire easier. Redeem your $75 credit at Indeed.com/credit. Terms and conditions apply.
Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Price varies based on product and subscription plan.
Hey guys, let's talk ED because millions of men experience it, but not everyone can access or afford treatments like Viagra. Well, Hims can help. Through Hims.com, you can get a full range of treatment options for ED, including daily or as-needed meds through a 100% online process. It all starts with an online intake form. Get started at hims.com/radio, and from there, a medical provider licensed in your state will determine if ED treatment is right for you. If prescribed, your medication is shipped to you for free. Find the ED treatment that fits your needs with options up to 95% less than the brand names. Millions of men experience ED, but Hims can help. To start your free online visit and save up to 95%, go to hims.com/radio. That's hims.com/radio for your free online visit. HIMS.com/RADIO.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Progressive knows if you have to choose between everyday life and your RV, RV wins.
What, are you going to take the RV to the lake or clean out your closet?
RV wins!
Putting the dishes away or taking the RV camping?
RV wins!
Cleaning the fridge or taking a trip to the beach?
RV wins!
You might want to clean the fridge real quick because, mold.
We clean out the fridge, then take the RV out.
With Progressive, you can bundle your RV with your home or auto and save with a discount and spend more time enjoying those savings in your RV. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states and situations.
Stay comfortable with Broadleaf's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning in every season. From expert repairs to system replacements, Broadleaf's has you covered. Join their family comfort plan for priority service, repairs, and annual maintenance. Broadleaf's offers free quotes, rebates, and 0% financing on system installs. So give Broadleaf's, your local factory authorized Bryant dealer, a call today at 609-390-3907 or visit broadleafs.net.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and on the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Before we get to the potentially biggest issue of the Eagles offseason that we still need to address, we'll get to the text board now at 609-403-0973, where Jeff in Ocean City chimes in and says, Josh, excellent guest science. The Flyers fail to make the playoffs next year. It will be a franchise record. That is correct. And Jeff in Ocean City, I think that is why this is such a delicate balancing act, as Jason and I were talking about earlier. And by the way, thanks again to Jason Myrtetus for joining us. Definitely enjoy the Flyers Daily podcast that he does. Because the balancing act is the Flyers, as Jason said, they don't want to overburden themselves with any contracts that prevent them flexibility down the road. But they also don't want to stunt the progress of the young players they have by having such a young and inexperienced team that you never learn if these guys can evolve and develop. I had always felt that Tortorella was a great measuring stick for some of these young players. And you learned very quickly, not very quickly, but you learned in a short amount of time, I think is a better way of verbalizing it, that players like Morgan Frost and Joel Farabee, they had hit a ceiling in this organization, that their development was not progressing at the rate that you wanted. While on the flip side, you saw guys like Tyson Forrester and Bobby Brink and Noah Cates make huge strides in the last few years. So the organization said, okay, you're not making strides, we're going to move on. And I think that is part of what the next couple of years are going to be, is going to be separating who is going to be here long-term versus who is just right now. And that's the balancing act. It's the idea that you want to put this team in a better position to compete for the playoffs because you want to give Mishkov and the young guys that postseason taste, that postseason experience in a league where half the teams make the playoffs every year. There should not be a reason why, with a budding superstar like Matvei Mishkov, you can't just, accidentally get into the postseason each year. Remember, even when the Capitals were not great, even in some of the years where the Penguins were not Stanley Cup contenders, when you look back on some of the years where Wayne Gretzky played for some just above average Kings teams, those teams still found ways to get into the postseason. And I know I'm putting Mishkov on a very lofty level, but whenever you have a player at the level of entering superstardom, again, name me anyone. Those guys found ways into the postseason even on average teams, right? You know, you look at Mike Modano with the Stars in the 90s. You look at guys even in more recent years. You go out to, dagnabbit, what's the team? Florida, before they got really good in recent years. You know, those teams had star players. Even Florida back in the day. I mean, Pavel Bure, for goodness sake, right? Look at the Tampa Bay Lightning back in the 2000s with guys like Martin St. Louis. Like, you could have a superstar player and you could still make the postseason even if your team is not great. And I think that that's where the Flyers have a balancing act. You don't want to prevent Mishkov from getting a taste of the postseason, but you also don't want to burn through the salary cap flexibility for years to come. And in hockey, it's not as easy to just load up on one-year deals as it is in the NBA. Because a lot of hockey players, they want a little more stability. The collective bargaining agreement is a little different than the NBA. So it's a balancing act. I think the Flyers, they have a dual goal. They want to be a playoff team next year, but they also don't want to overtax. They don't want to overextend their financial obligations moving forward, Jeff in Ocean City. Let's get to Dan and EHD chimes in. I don't like to say this, but I think the Phillies have a problem with Ranger Suarez. I would definitely try to trade him if possible. Well, Dan and EHD, you need Ranger to show people that he is tradable. That's a big part of this conversation. We can talk about trading people all we want, but we don't live in the world of video games. This isn't MLB, 2K or it used to be AAA baseball back when I was younger, but I don't think that game even exists anymore. But it's the idea that if you are a baseball team, you gotta make trades in reality. And part of reality is it's not what I think someone's value is. It depends on what someone else thinks that player's value is. Look at what happened with the Phillies this offseason. John Middleton came out and told the media that, hey, we tried to make tons of deals, and nobody liked our deals. So we were basically, we basically had to step back and be like, all right, well, whatever. Didn't work out. And I think the Phillies are walking a very fine line where there is a value in Ranger Suarez. There is a value in Mick Abel. There is a value in prospects like Rincones and prospects who other teams might have interest in, but maybe not for what you want to get for those players. So you have to evaluate, are we overvaluing our players, our prospects? So it goes back to the Ryan Helsley question. What do other teams think of Mick Abel? What do other teams think of Ranger Suarez? Ranger Suarez is a to-be free agent. You know who else is a to-be free agent? Adolis Garcia, the outfielder for the Rangers. Is there a scenario where you would make a deal with the Rangers? Give me your free agent, I give you my free agent. Or is Adolis Garcia good enough for a trade like Ranger Suarez? And that's the delicacy of this conversation, is that can Philadelphia get more for these guys than Ryan Helsley or Adolis Garcia? Or do we, watching these players every day, having a certain level of emotional attachment to them, are we overvaluing them? A lot of questions for the Phillies moving forward versus Tampa tonight. It's Zach Wheeler on the mound. Zach Wheeler will pitch, he's scheduled to pitch tonight against the Rays, and then Sunday Night Baseball this Sunday against the Cardinals. And by the way, you can hear the Sunday Night Baseball game right here on 97.3 ESPN. Thanks to Jason Myrtetus from the Flyers Radio Network, Flyers Daily Podcast, for joining me tonight. And thanks to all of you for listening on 97.3 ESPN. We'll get back to the Eagles conversation tomorrow. I got a lot of thoughts on some of the offseason question marks still for the Birds. We'll get to that tomorrow here on 97.3 ESPN.
The NBA playoffs continue.
All right, welcome into the post show. Josh Hennig on my YouTube channel, at Josh Hennig. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. We like to try to do a quick thought or two here on the post show. And here's tonight's thought, and that is, and it particularly pertains to the Philadelphia sports teams. Let's go big picture for a minute. The Philadelphia Eagles have set a new standard in the city of Philadelphia. And I think part of setting that standard is naturally, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I naturally look at the other teams differently now. And when I look at the pompous nature of Dave Dombrowski, when I look at the constant apologizing and misstepping of Daryl Morey, and when I look at the genuine earnestness to be patient with Danny Briere and Keith Jones, I come back to the idea of there's not only one way to be successful, but there is only one way to handle the fan base, and that is honesty. I think where the GM like Danny Briere is going to be successful in Philadelphia, while the GMs like Daryl Morey are going to eventually fail, is one truth. And the truth is tell the truth. I think one of the biggest problems when it comes to sports today is that there's a lot of people who are in positions of power, executives, presidents of operations, general managers, whatever their title may be. You know, Howie Roseman's technical title is Vice President of Football Operations. We all know what that really means, okay? Howie runs the organization. He builds the roster. He's in charge. But for whatever reason, the Eagles like to have VP of this and VP of that, okay? So it doesn't matter what your title is. The reality is that, are you the type of executive that is going to be honest with your fan base? The biggest problem in cities like Philadelphia, New York, Chicago, Boston, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, cities that are diehard passionate about their teams, is that they end up with snake oil salesmen at times. One of the problems in Philadelphia over the years has been their executives are not always honest. You have a situation where Howie Roseman has learned the hard way by watching others what not to do. And since he became executive in 2016, he has always been clear about the goal. He's been clear in his messaging. He has not been frivolous with his words. He has not been short with the media. He has given every answer humanly possible every step of the way. When 2016 and 2020 did not go so well, he did not run from the questions. He addressed them, and he said, all right, now I'm going to go to work. And he rebuilt multiple times. The problem in Philadelphia right now is now that Howie Roseman has built so well, he has created an environment where the Eagles are not one-time but two-time Super Bowl champions. They have now separated themselves from the other three teams. A Sixers organization that has not won a championship since 1983. A Flyers organization that has not won a championship since the 1970s, the mid-1970s. I mean, Gerald Ford, I think, was president when the last time the Flyers won a championship, okay? And the Phillies, they're the only one, aside from the Eagles, that has won a championship in the 21st century. But it was only one. It was 2008. So while the Phillies have been to 3 World Series in the 21st century, the Flyers have been the 1 Stanley Cup, the Sixers have been the 1 NBA Finals, the Eagles have shown themselves to be more than just competently run organization. They have shown themselves to be championship contenders year in and year out. So the question is going to be, what can the other teams learn from Howie Roseman? And it starts with honesty. Dave Dombrowski has to stop being a pompous know-it-all. Stop telling me that if this happens, if that happens, everything's going to be all right. Well, Dave, as of right now, that does not give the fan base any hope. Phillies fans have been very patient with you and your whatever you call this, retool, recalibration. At some point, the team cannot avoid the reality that if they don't get to a World Series this year, the window is closing. For the 76ers, they have invested a stupid amount of money in players who can't stay healthy. And the organization needs to be honest about that they have prioritized players with injury histories over players who give you immediate results. And then it brings us to the Flyers. This is the offseason we learn who Danny Briere and Keith Jones are. If the Flyers don't get competent goaltending, if the Flyers don't do something to strengthen, you heard Jason Myrtetus say the center position, I say his defense, how about we split the difference? How about we say one of each? Let's get a centerman, let's get a defenseman, let's make this team less of a liability on the ice because the fans want to root for these teams. Phillies fans, Sixer fans, Flyer fans, they just want to show up at the arena, at the ballpark, and root for a team that they can believe in. But it's hard to believe in a team when the person who's speaking for the team is giving you a bunch of horse manure, and then you're told that it don't stink. And that is the lesson that Dave Dombrowski, Daryl Morey need to learn, and we're going to see if Danny Briere is going to learn that lesson. Because at the end of the day, these organizations have to start winning. You already saw what happened to the Phillies and the Flyers the last time they did not fulfill on promises. People stopped going to the games. And in an age where everything is more expensive, and in an age and an environment where it's more difficult than ever to rationalize spending more money than necessary on anything, fans are going to make decisions more often than not with their money. So be careful, Daryl Morey, Dave Dombrowski, and Danny Briere. Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of Philly sports fans who will save their money for Eagles season. Thanks for watching on my YouTube channel, at Josh Hennig. Like, subscribe, share with your friends. We'll be back tomorrow around 6 p.m. Eastern on 97.3 ESPN FM and right here on my YouTube channel. Have a great night, everybody.